Hi guys, welcome to the new video workshop of learning painting technique. First of all, I apologize for my English. I hope you will understand what I'm trying to tell you. So please be patient with me and with my English. As you can see, I'm starting my painting with oiling out because the acrylic imprimatur needs to absorb some oil before starting the painting. This is a shortcut method. I've decided to paint Grisaille without previous underpainting, but as you can see, I'm putting some values in the shadows because I wanted to have a warm undertone under the gray layer. So I've decided to make a quick and easy flat underpainting with no details. It surely can be painted without this simple underlayer, but I feel I wanted to have this warm hue under the gray in the cast shadow. So even it is a shortcut, as I said before, I'm doing a very simple underpainting. With dry brush, I'm blending the hard edges. I generally like the soft edges everywhere, and much later I decide which edge will be as sharp as I need it. Right now I'm starting with the gray. This gray is made up of raw umber and white. Very easy underpainting, very easy gray, easily made up from these two colors. As you can see, the imprimatur is a bit darker than usual when I'm starting painting with the umber layer. This is because if the imprimatur is dark, you can see the light values more clearly. Your value judgment will be much better on the darker ground. I like to start with the lightest part. The petals on the light side has lightest value. Usually I like to start this way. I like to start with the lightest values because this way I'm sitting and I'm trying to make myself to be sure what is gonna be the lightest part. So these light parts, I place it on the canvas, are gonna be the brightest spots on the pink rose. Later on, of course, I'm gonna paint it over with the color, but right now we are dealing with with the Grisaille with monochromatic underpainting. I'm gently setting shadows. When I'm painting, I'm thinking about planes. Which plane is more directed to the light source, and which part of the petal is inclined more to the shadow side. As you can see, the variation of values is very subtle. There is no high contrast on the light. The value on the shadow is still quite a light. It's about one tone lower than the light side, than the part of the pedal on the light. I think I'm gonna a little speed up the process because this painting took me a few hours and I don't wanna make you sleep while you're watching this slow process. So now you are watching a double speed. I said before this is a shortcut method because usually I'm working first on umber underpainting. Basically, the imprimatura, the dark imprimatura, is like the umber underpainting. Due to the dark imprimatura, you have a warm hue, especially in the shadow part, but you have to solve all the tonal relationships right in this gray layer. Sometimes layering process looks kind of complicated and too long, you know, but all the underpaintings are made up for dividing the whole process to individual steps. So if I'm working on umber underpainting, I'm solving all the tonal tasks, all the tonal relationships, and when I apply a Grisaille over the umber underlayer, all the tonal relationships are solved. So I just mechanically repeating what was said in the umber underpainting. I'm trying to say when I paint with umber and I set the values in the umber layer, I repeat all the values in the gray color when I'm painting Grisaille. But we have a dark imprimatur, so we need to solve all the tonal relationships right now because I skipped this umber underlayer. So right now, while I'm painting, I'm constantly checking the values and squinting and comparing individual values of the petals, trying to put together everything in one layer. Right now I'm blending, as I said before, I'm blending all the hard edges with this dry soft brush. For this purpose I'm using sometimes squirrel hair brush, but this is red sable brushes, flat and round. Sometimes blending takes much time than applying color itself. Again, blending hard edges. Always try to avoid hard edges in the painting. This is a bigger generalizing brush. So again, blending all the hard edges. so the rose will look more natural with the soft edges. As you can see, there is also a little bit of texture. Texture is one of the important purposes of the gray layer. If you take a look on the paintings of the old masters, sometimes when they painted a white rose, especially I saw this effect in Jan van Huysumstek paintings. He used a very thick and pasty layers of gray underpainting under the color layer, so the rose petals sticking out of the canvas. So this is one of the main purposes, to get the colors a mass, to get the colors a body, because some colors are not suitable for using in thick paste. As the old masters did, usually using lead white for the purposes of underpainting, because the lead white is great, is the best color for gray underpainting. But in this case, I wanted to make it as much as easier as possible. So I'm using right now the titanium white, ordinary titanium white. Titanium white works pretty good, but its properties not as good as lead white. So when I'm painting a bigger, let's say bigger still life, and I like to use lead white, for example from Rublev. I got in my studio some pre-mixed colors in my tube. You may have seen the video how I'm mixing my Grisaille colors from fast drying colors, burnt umber, yellow ochre, red ochre and lead white. But as you can see, raw umber and white color works fine for the purpose of Grisaille as well. Again, blending hard edges. This painting was kind of hard because there are a lot of details, a lot of tiny petals, so I was using a little synthetic brushes. And when I'm applying the gray color, I'm always thinking about the light. The light is the source of color harmony, and according to light you have to apply values. So first, what is in my mind is what is direction of the light. Here on this painting, the light comes from the top left side, and the left side of the rose is much lighter than the right side of the rose. The petals on the right are on the shadow, so I set my lightest value on the left, and right now I know that there will be no lighter part on the rose than on the light side. The Grisaille painting is based on principle of applying and blending. As you can see, I always proceed this way. I first apply the color with synthetic brushes, and after some time I'm using soft sable brushes to blend all the hard edges. Lead white, when I'm using lead white, I have to blend pretty quick because lead white is really fast drying color, so it needs to be blended immediately. But the titanium white is slower drying, so there is a bit time to blend. Because this was a highly detailed painting for me, I didn't paint it on the one sitting, and it took me few sittings to complete the whole underpainting. As you can see in the shadow, the color is applied in the thin layers of paint. Generally, when I'm painting, I apply lightest parts with the thick pasty layers. The part of the light are painted with the pasty color, with the texture, and in the shadow part of the rose there are subtle layers, transparent. I'm letting visible the acrylic imprimatura, the warm hue of acrylic imprimatura through the gray layer. So the shadows are warmer than the areas on the light. The rule of classical realistic painting tells us the shadow is warmer than the halftone. Basically, this is a main purpose of the gray layer, to build up low chromatic halftones. Later, when I will be applying the color layers, probably this painting is gonna be made up with 2, maybe 3 colors. I'm gonna let the halftone areas as much visible as possible. But color layers are not the goal of this tutorial. Right now we are talking about just about the grain underpainting. As you can see again, after applying the paint, I blended hard edges with the flat sable brush, putting transparent shadow, adjusting some edges. When I'm painting a rose, especially rose, it is necessary to be careful with the dark values in the shadow, because the petals are transparent a little bit, so when light hits the petal, it penetrates through the leaf to some extent, and this causes to lightening up the shadow areas of the rose. So I'm picking just 1 or 2 parts in the shadow which are gonna be pretty dark, but I'm trying to avoid excessive contrast. Inside the rose you are not gonna find a lot of really dark places due to the present light in the shadow areas. Here I'm working on a bigger petals, still thinking about the direction of the light. I'm imagining how the form is turned away from the light source, but there is still quite a lot of light on the petal, so the value is not as low. I mean, the difference between light and shadow part of the illuminated petal, the difference is quite small, about one value on the value scale. Still, I'm blending with the direction of the petals shape. Here I'm applying quite a darker hue. It is the core shadow. It's kind of a core shadow which is visible due to transparency of this big petal. You can see inside this big petal lighter values than I'm working right now, because the light penetrates the petal through, and in the shadow the petal is lit up a little bit. Right now I'm painting other leaves, other petals. These petals are quite simple. Blending with generalizing brush. Sometimes I'm blending with a small brush, edge after edge, and when I'm satisfied with small blending, I'm blending again with a big generalizing brush. This is the part in the shadow, revisiting some places on the light side. This petal is hidden behind leaves, behind the petals on the light, so it's kind of dark. Here is a darkest value because there is no light, there's almost no light inside the rose. The petals are too close to each other, so the light cannot penetrate through. You can see my glass palette on the right side. Glass palette is my favorite palette. It's easy to clean, and I made up my palette easily from the glass sheet and cardboard. And under the glass I have a gray paper, and also I have the value scale, so I can estimate the values. I can judge the value what I'm working on. I know exactly what value I'm using. You can also see colors. I mixed up 5 or 6 values from value 3 to value 10. It's not important how much values has your value scale. The key is to cover the whole value scale. You need to be sure you have the values from the light side of the value scale from the middle part of the value scale. The darkest value you're gonna need, of course, darker values for the shadows. Usually I'm using six colors, 6 values, and when I'm painting, I'm mixing these values with each other, so I'm getting more value nuances, more values while working. So I'm definitely end up with a much values than when I started with 6 values only. So guys, this was the first part of the layering process I'm working. Next video will be about the layering the color. I hope your ears does not suffer too much listening my narration, my comments. I did my best, and I hope this video will be useful for you. I will leave you now watching how